This section is on our council strategic priorities. We last had our council retreat in line with developing our 2-year budget in February. I believe it was February and April, June of 2021. And so what we'll do here is just review those priorities that we created. Those priorities, those 4 priorities, helped to drive our budget process over a 2-year period. They helped to drive our policy-making process. And it is time, because we are embarking on our 2-year budget, to have another retreat and to update these priorities. And so as we review them, I do invite your feedback on what type of format in terms of a retreat or meeting we could do this year to sharpen and update these priorities to inform our budget, as well as the timing of that. And then I'll also discuss, after we go through the priorities that currently exist, some of the timeline that we are working with. Much of it is spelled out in our consolidated fiscal policy. So let's go to the first slide. So we developed 4 major priorities as a council back in 2021. The first is affordable housing and homelessness solutions. And so this includes protection and prevention, protecting tenants and low-income property owners and preventing homelessness, preservation, preserving affordable housing, production, producing deeply affordable housing, as well as housing our unsheltered residents through strategies like leasing and purchasing hotels, utilizing public land for emergency shelter, safe parking sites, transitional housing and permanent deeply affordable housing, and then finally servicing encampments through outreach and supportive services, as well as health and sanitation services. Next slide. The second set of priorities is around public safety and violence prevention. And these priorities, again, developed in 2021, include taking action on the recommendations of the Reimagining Public Safety Task Force to increase public safety through alternative responses to calls for service and investments in the root causes of violence and poverty. Also reducing gun violence, focusing on violent crime, including increasing investigative capacity. Third, increasing violence prevention, trauma-informed care and healing. Fourth, developing and implementing alternative responses to police, such as MACRO, our Mobile Assistance Community Responders of Oakland program, and the fire department. And then implementing and expanding crime prevention through environmental design for crime prevention and traffic calming. Next slide. Our third set of priorities is around good jobs and vibrant economy. So this includes creating and maintaining family-sustaining jobs, enhancing workforce development and training, and youth job programs, supporting small businesses, addressing racial and gender disparities and enhancing business districts, and also fully staffing city departments by improving recruitment, filling vacancies, and increasing both succession planning and retention. Next slide. And then our fourth set of priorities is clean, healthy, sustainable neighborhoods. So reducing and preventing illegal dumping, litter, and blight, including proactive service and reducing the backlog of abandoned autos, ensuring safe and well-maintained streets and sidewalks, investing in parks, libraries, youth development, senior services, arts, and culture, and also expanding wildfire prevention and disaster preparedness and response. So these 4 priorities have guided our budget the last 2 years. They've helped guide our policy making the last 2 years. Some of the context and time frame that guides this priority setting includes our consolidated fiscal policy. You will hear more about that on day 4 of these overview sessions when we go into finance and budget. But just to highlight a few of the benchmarks, in February, under the consolidated fiscal policy, that's when the council receives an initial budget briefing and we begin our priority discussions. And so I would like to go ahead and schedule that retreat for either February 24th or the 17th. And I do want to hear your feedback and how we can conduct that meeting to really provide the best format for us to have this discussion about updating our priorities. And just to go over a couple other dates, March 15th is a really important date in our consolidated fiscal policy. This is especially important for the new council members because it's going to come up really soon. On March 15th, each council member develops a statement of your council member priorities. And so that statement is used to advise the mayor and the city administrator publicly of your priorities. And we can submit up to 7 expenditure priorities that could be ranked or weighted in order in terms of how we want to weigh in on the baseline budget. And there are samples on the city's budget webpage if you want to look back and see what those have looked like. The other timeline, the third timeline I want to highlight is that in May and June, starting May 14th, after the mayor publishes their budget, each council member must hold a community budget forum. And so we do want to go ahead and start to schedule those forums so that when we do the retreat, we can announce to the public when those forums will be. So please keep in mind those dates. Please plan with your teams. And at this point, I'll open it up for questions and discussions. And in particular, I do want to hear, because we are all here together. Otherwise, we have to work within the boundaries of the Brown Act and can't talk as a group, but here together, would like to hear your feedback on when to have the council retreat on our priorities and to get the budget briefing, again, either the 24th or the 17th of February, and your feedback on the format for how we do that, the facilitator who might come in and help us, whether we do that in person like we did prior to COVID or do it via Zoom. So please share some of your feedback on that.